Hi, I'm Unseen Mechanic, and this is the Satire Fanfic audiobook. An almost complete reading of the entire book. I hope you enjoy it, but don't expect too much from my reading abilities. I might mess up or sound goofy. Most of these were taken in one shot. And don't expect the good quality you normally see in these types of audiobooks. And just try not to be judgmental, okay? Well, you're already viewing the fanfic, so I guess you're probably already there. Happy listening. Chapter 1. New School Beginnings. Unstable had a rough year. He had recently moved to a new high school, and had to start from scratch. Again. He wasn't unfamiliar with this feeling, though. All his life he had been moving from school to school. But at least for now, his parents promised that he'd stay here and wouldn't move anymore. Just like the other times they said that. Still, Unstable hoped this was different. He'd enrolled into this new school, one where education was said to be the highest of quality, and applying was completely free. Too good to be true, Unstable thought. But to his surprise, the school was quite nice. No falling ceilings, no litter in the main hallways, and the janitors always seemed to be cleaning whenever they could. Paper School seemed like a very appealing place for neat freaks, like his sister. But she had gone to a private girls' school. Their parents told her it would make her more refined, since she was the type of person who couldn't sit still for longer than 2 seconds. But that's what made her fun. As Unstable stepped through the hallways, he heard the bell ring. Had class already started? He couldn't be late on his first day. That would make a bad impression. He rummaged through his backpack, reaching deep inside. He needed his schedule to figure out where he was supposed to go, but no matter how far he searched, he couldn't find it. He let out a quiet curse. Great. He supposed he would just have to check every classroom until he found the right one. Classroom after classroom, thousands of eyes staring on him. He knew they'd remember. Definitely. Especially the teacher would give him that cold, lingering stare. After making it through the hallway, he stopped in front of the blue door, its surface covered in scratches and marks. Probably the work of some troublemakers. He didn't really care. He just needed to know if this was his classroom. But just as he was about to take another step, an unfamiliar arm yanked him back. Whoa! A guy chuckled. That's definitely not where you need to be. Unstable turned around to see another student standing beside him. If you want your organs intact, don't go through that door, the guy added, tilting the top hat resting on his forehead. Ooh, tilting the top hat resting on his head. Unstable narrowed his eyes. Who are you? Vance. But my parents call me Adam. You can call me Advance. Kidding, don't call me that, call me Vance, he muttered. Unstable ignored the strange introduction. What's behind that door? A girl with an intense taste for malice. Alice, they call her. But, to put it simply, she's a horror beyond comprehension. But whew, she's a looker. Stable shot him a weird look, but brushed past it. Why are they keeping her? Tell if I know. Only the principal would have an answer. Maybe I'll be too. That sorry excuse for a boyfriend. Total prick with a huge ego. Total prick with a huge ego. Complete wuss though. He basically had behind her. Sable couldn't tell if Vance was joking or being completely serious. He decided to take a shot. Do you, have feelings for her? Vance just nodded. Mm-hmm. And Sable wasn't sure what to think. Someone actually thinking of liking someone despite the horrors they were capable of. It was weird, but maybe he wished he would find love too. Not now, though. Okay, do you at least know where Miss Bloomy's classroom is? Vance raised an eyebrow. Oh, you must be new, he smirked. Sure, I'd be happy to help. The school went on, and Stable figured out which classrooms he was supposed to be in, and he made a mental note of everything that stood out to him. 3 teachers in particular caught his attention the most. First, there was Miss Circle, a freakishly tall math teacher who could easily be mistaken for a pine tree. Not like she liked those remarks, but what really caught Sable's eye was the compass. Why on earth would someone have such a thing attached to their arm. It was bizarre. Miss Circle claimed it was from some sort of accident, but she never explained the purpose of reason for having the compass in her hand. Then there was Miss Bloomy, a woman for a knack of inventing weird gadgets. Her earliest invention, a blade arm, razor sharp, and precision enough to cut through the air with deadly accuracy. She wasn't a bad shot either, but Sable had seen her shoot a kid's phone right out of his hands after he ignored the no phones policy. Despite being fairly tall, she was the shortest out of the three. If there were rankings based on height, Miss Bloomy would be at the bottom of the list. She wasn't well respected amongst her peers either. They'd usually tease her for it. And then there was Miss Thavel, the language teacher. Stable wasn't sure if he could focus properly in class whenever he tried to ask a question. All that came up was incoherent noises. He didn't know what this feeling was, the way his mind fogged up whenever she got close. The pleasant scent of coconut and almond lingered around her, comforting in the familiar way he couldn't explain. Her attire wasn't bad either, but it was her claws, sharp and menacing. That should have been terrifying, and yet Sable found himself unable to look away. This feeling was foreign to him. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was an obsession. Maybe it was something else entirely, but Sable wasn't 100% sure what. Bro, you have no idea how hard I had to hold it in together for that last part. Chapter -1. Inoshimi, Claire. Gone. She was gone. Forever. Engel stood there, frozen in disbelief. His best friend had been brutalized, slaughtered, and she had seen her so desperately try to escape, struggling to get away. But she couldn't, and it was his fault. He should have warned her, should have told her to stay away from Alice's room. He had been a fool not to. If only he had spoken up, Claire might still be alive. She could have escaped. But now, there was nothing more than a lifeless body. Engel's chest tightened as he stared down at her, horror and guilt clawing at his throat. Around him, teachers began to gather, and their faces appeared in shock and terror, and so did those three murderers. They feigned their concern, their false expressions masking the truth he already knew. He had seen what the Princess of Malice was capable of, and he knew what those three teachers had done. They had taken Abby, they had taken Talana, and now they had taken Claire too. Engel's hands curled to a fist. He was about to open his mouth, to call out them, to expose them for what they really were, but then, keep that mouth shut or you'll go down with us. Any word of our violent deeds spreading around and we'll make sure you join Claire. A cold whisper behind him said. He recognized that voice. Circle. Engel's breath hitched. He should have spoken up anyway. Should have thrown their crimes in their faces, but he was too terrified. Too terrified. He just stood there trembling. Coward. Miss Circle's hand landed on his shoulder, a slow, methodical pat, and Engel nodded. Because he was too afraid to do anything else. Damn it, we can't kill him, Miss Circle cursed under her breath. If anything happened to Engel now, suspicion would fall on them immediately. Too many students, too many teachers had seen them chasing Claire. They knew something had happened. So Miss Circle spun up a story. A weak one, but believable enough. She claimed they were merely confronting Claire about her grades, and it had been an accident. That they didn't mean to push her through that door. At least half of that sentence was true. And Engel, they would force him to lie too. He had no choice. He knew what would happen if he didn't. When asked about his injuries, the teachers made sure that he had given one that kept their names far away from the story. I guess we'll just have to lay off the discipline until all eyes are off us, Miss Bloomy's voice was calm, almost indifferent, as she tinkered the mechanics of her blade arm. The metallic clicks and whirs filled the silence between them. Killing Engel wasn't an option. Not yet. If they did, they would be the first suspects, and that had already drawn far too much attention after Claire's attempt to escape. The beast leaking behind that forbidden door. God, what a blessing that had been. They'd managed to cover it up, somehow. The police barely asked questions about the murder of a teenage girl. Miss Grace knew about Alice, but not the killings. She too wanted to keep Alice's existence under wraps, but in doing so, she allowed free murderers to keep warming the school halls. Chapter 2. Lunchtime. The bell rang loudly, its shrill piercing Unstable's ears. Unstable winced. He'd have to get used to that. At least it was lunchtime, though. Lunch meant free time, time to sit, eat, not worry about anything else for a while. He unpacked his lunch, leftover pasta from a fancy restaurant his family had gone to last night. Lucky him. Glancing around the cafeteria, he saw a couple of places he could sit at. The Poplar girls, who he could already tell were more trouble than they were worth. The bullies, whom Advance had warned about earlier, so he wasn't so interested in going to that table. The last table was where a lonely boy sat, with a feather on top of his head. He seemed to be twisting his fork at his food, sorelessly. The stable didn't have many good options, so he decided to give the table a shot. Can I sit here? The boy looked up, snapping out of what trance he'd been. Oh, sure. The stable smiled and took a seat. The stable wasn't the social type, but he knew something seemed off about the student. He put down his fork and decided to ask, to make sure everything was alright. You alright? Unstable asked casually. The boy looked at him. I noticed you were out of it. Everything okay? The student chuckled as if to keep the situation from being tense. Stable knew that laugh, the kind of laugh he would use to mask his dark times. You tell me something's wrong, you know. Stable pushed, but not too hard. Pressing too much could make the student shut down completely. But Unstable knew something was wrong. I lost someone, the student finally admitted. Oh. Ooh. Ah. Unstable sighed. I didn't expect that, I'm sorry. The boy smiled faintly. It's okay, you didn't know. Unstable knew that it was time to stop, so he did. He leaned back into his seat and continued with his meal. The student exhaled. There's something happening at the school. Unstable blinked and looked back at him. What? My friend, she went missing. The student hesitated, like he was choosing his words carefully, like someone was listening. Failed the test. Unstable looked at her, concerned. What do you think happened to her? Unstable looked up. Standing before them was a tall woman with a compass for an arm. May I inquire what you two gentlemen are talking about? She asked so sweetly. Bugs, the student replied. Unstable glanced at him. Unstable caught on quickly. Oh yeah, we were talking about bugs, he repeated, this time more confidence. Unstable caught on quickly. Actually, I'm kind of too lazy to cut that out. A circle narrowed her eyes at the student, her gaze dripping with, I'm watching you. Just then, the bell rang. Lunch was over. Well, I suppose you two should head to your classes, A circle murmured. Unstable nodded, very slowly. What the heck was that about? He and the student started walking towards their classrooms. Engel. Unstable turned his back to him. Huh? My name's Engel. Chapter 3. Mixed feelings. Miss Thavel had one interesting student. A very interesting one indeed. His name was Unstable, she thought. Unstable seemed to take quite a liking to her. Around special holidays, she'd always give her chocolates. How did he know white chocolates were her favorite? But Unstable was an exceptional student, no doubt. He was earning a high novice grade in her language class, while most other students were still below. Maybe she was just his favorite teacher. Miss Thavel didn't think much of it. It was probably just pandering. Yeah, just pandering. But as the months passed, Valentine's Days arrived. Couples got together, people handed out sweets to one another. As Miss Thavel was packing up, she noticed something on her desk. A card and a box of chocolates. How sweet. Teachers often exchanged chocolates to each other, but she had noticed this one before. When she picked it up, she glanced at a letter. A secret admirer? Actually, should I read that out? Nah, that was strange. There weren't many male teachers at paper school, if any. The only male teacher was Mr. Demi, but he was already in a relationship with Miss Sasha. Miss Circle with Mr. Compass, though he had yet to see him. None of the other teachers seemed particularly interested in her either. Miss Thavel rubbed her temples. She had no words for this. Surely someone was just messing with her. Yeah, that was probably the reason, she hoped. But no one would buy this much chocolate for a joke. Tomorrow she would ask some questions, but that was tomorrow's problem. Right now, she just desperately wanted sleep. Then a random thought popped into her mind. What if it was Unstable? That boy? Could it be him? Could it be true? Once the idea entered her mind, there was no getting rid of it. So she shut the door to her classroom and locked it. As she turned, she noticed a student still lingering around. Mac Hine. Mac Hine? Ooh, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Let me just... None of this is cut out, by the way. You're gonna have to hear all of this. Hine. Is this how you... Hine. That's right. What are you doing here? Saying someone's full name usually did the trick to catch their attention. Mac was a proficient student. One amusing thing he did was grade other people's work, offering feedback and criticism. It was entertaining and saved her some hassle. However, he had quite the distaste for Miss Circle. It was surprising she hadn't killed him yet. Mac met eyes with her. Oh, just hanging around. And you have nowhere else to be. It's Valentine's Day, isn't it? Max scoffed. Yeah, but I had no plans. I'm just introverted like that. Miss Thavel lowered her eyes. Well, if you're not... Oh my god, I messed up 2 times. Well, if you're not allowed to be here... Wait, what? 3 times? Well, you're not allowed to be here after school. So, get out of here. Mac glanced at a box of chocolates in her hands. You got a date? Miss Thavel quickly looked down. She had completely forgotten about the chocolates. No, just a gift from someone. Mac brought up a small detail that had slipped from Miss Thavel's mind. I saw Unstable with one of those boxes. Well, they're pretty common gift, so I'm not sure if it's him. Ah, interesting, Miss Thavel mused. Well, ciao, Teach, Mac said informally. Adios, Mac, Miss Thavel said as she walked off. Is something wrong? Miss Circle blinked. She hadn't even noticed she was zoning out until on the couch until Mr. Compass pointed out. Miss Circle huffed. Sad boy, Angel. I don't like how he's still alive. And you're not gonna take him out? Mr. Compass asked while playing with her hair. Miss Circle grumbled. I can't. Every teacher has their damn eye on that brat ever since the accident. Ah, Mr. Compass murmured as he got up to get something, presumably a snack. A Kit Kat, probably. Miss Circle loved those, but oddly enough, she ate those too on her crummy days. Maybe it's just a mood thing. While waiting for him, she looked around her house and noticed the old photos of them together. She didn't think they had a photo together in many years. Miss Circle always wanted to preserve memories and tried to pester him, but Mr. Compass always said it better just to live in the moment, since we'll always have each other. A few seconds later, Mr. Compass returned with exactly what she guessed. A Kit Kat. Miss Circle chuckled. Typical. As if hearing her thoughts, Mr. Compass looked at her smiling. What? Miss Compass. Oh, Miss Compass? Miss Circle had no idea how Mr. Compass was so good at conserving his Kit Kat rations, while Miss Circle could barely control herself. Is that a typo? Oh my god, bro. Whatever. Control herself when she had a bite of her Oreos. She was quite sure she had a problem. That student Angle, I don't think he's gonna keep his mouth shut. Mr. Compass bit into the Kit Kat, chewing with his mouth open. Bad habit of his. Oh, yeah, he said. Bits of chocolate flew out of his mouth. Miss Circle didn't mind it since he thought it was quite charming. Miss Circle glanced at the floor. He was talking to another student unstable. And you think he's gonna try to spoil your secrets anyway, even after you threaten him? Yes, I do, and it's concerning. He could potentially rat us out. And what are you going to do about it? Miss Circle paused, thinking for a moment. Well, I'll just have to make sure he doesn't. Mr. Compass smiled. I like it when you like murderers that way. Chapter 4. The Devil's Horseradish. The doctor frowned at Miss Circle. It's not serious, but if it reoccurs, don't hesitate to call me. Take these medications, they'll help. Miss Circle rolled her eyes. She had killed students for the thrill, and what? A doctor telling her to relax with some pills? That was rich. If only he knew. She walked down the stairs with Mr. Compass at her side, still fuming. What the hell does that doctor know? She muttered. Mr. Compass shrugged. Well, probably doesn't know that you kill students for fun, which plays to a big part of your insanity. She laughed. That's what I was thinking. Then, a thought crossed her mind. Hey, can you stick around and talk to my friends? Mr. Compass hesitated. No, I can't do that. I'd rather just serve as a compass. She frowned. You never talk to anyone when you're with me. Yeesh, calm down. I'm just antisocial, shoot me. They both reached the bottom of the stairs, and he bounded toward the door. Ladies first. Miss Circle tilted her head. Aren't you supposed to open it for me? He blinked. Well, it's the modern day, isn't it? Women can open doors for themselves. She smacked his face, rolling her eyes. How cheesy, Compass. Hey, ow! He rubbed his cheek. You're a cruel lady. Rolling her eyes, she pushed she already rolled her eyes. Now she's rolling it again. Thank you, Unstable, for the story writing. Thank you, bro. Thank you. She pushed the door open. Miss Thavel and Bloomy were waiting outside. They smiled when they saw her. Miss Circle glanced behind her, expecting Compass to be there. Her hand was empty. No, her hand is empty, because that's implying that she was holding his hand. Yeah, right. And she looked back at her right hand. He had vanished again. Just like always. Miss Thavel raised a brow. Were you with someone? Miss Circle hesitated for a second before sighing. Yeah, but I guess he didn't feel like sticking around. She slapped her compass. Miss Bloomy looked curious. Why'd you go to the doctor again? Miss Circle exhaled as they walked down the street. Oh, you know, doctors trying to hold down my insanity. Like I need mental help when I literally murder kids. She laughed. Miss Thavel growled. Can you not announce that to the whole street, please? Fine. They stopped at a crosswalk. Miss Bloomy pressed the button to cross. I'm starving, Miss Circle admitted. You want to grab something to eat? Miss Thavel asked. Miss Circle scanned the area, then perked up. Sushi! Miss Bloomy looked up. I've never had sushi before. Miss Thavel and Miss Circle looked at each other, stunned. Never? Well, I don't know, I just never found it appealing, I guess. Miss Circle chuckled. You're missing out. The crosswalk sign flashed and they hurried across the street. She reached for the restaurant door first and pulled it open. Table for... She hesitated. Free. Right. She glanced at her compass before shaking the thought away. Table for free, please. The three teachers took their seats at a nearby table. So, how are your students? Miss Circle asked, turning to Thavel. Oh, they're good, well-behaved, good grades, she replied. Miss Thavel nodded. Yo, I just read Bloomy as Thavel. I might have a problem. Miss Bloomy nodded. Mine have been exceptional. A way to approach with a polite smile. May I take your orders? Oh God. Miss Bloomy scanned the menu carefully, nodding as she decided. I'll have the what the hell did I type here? Yo, I think I'm gonna be honest. I think I just typed up types of sushi, and like, yeah, that's literally what I did, and then I just fumbled the spelling so bad. The inuzushi. No, I probably pronounced that wrong too. Wait, let me redeem myself with Google Translate. That's not what I wanted. That's, hold on. That is also not. I'll be fine. I'll be fine, guys. I'll be fine. Inuzushi. I think I have to say in Japanese. Yeah, I'm not pronouncing that. You know what? Miss Bloomy was kind of correct. Maybe this is pretty hard to pronounce. I can't judge her now. Miss Bloomy's face burned with embarrassment. Oh wait, no, I forgot to read that part. She winced. Her accent had betrayed her. The waiter, clearly used to this, put the pieces together. The inuzushi. I feel like an idiot. Miss Bloomy's face burned with embarrassment. Yes, that's the one. Miss Thavel chuckled. Miss Bloomy shot her a glare. Like you could do any better. Smirking, Miss Thavel closed her menu with full confidence, said, May I have the nigiri? Miss Bloomy's expression weakened. She had even got the accent right. How did you pronounce it so flawlessly? Miss Thavel only smiled. Well, it helps if you study the language. She turned to Miss Circle. Isn't that right? Without hesitation, Miss Thavel and Miss Circle began conversing fluently in Japanese. The words flowed naturally, an easy back and forth that left Miss Thavel 2 times. Miss Bloomy dumbfounded. Hey, I'm the only one that doesn't understand what you're saying. That's not fair. She winced. Oh, she whined. Miss Thavel chuckled. You don't need to know. She reached over, patting Miss Bloomy's head. Miss Bloomy growled, shooing her hand away. When the food arrived, Miss Bloomy's eyes landed on a small amount of green paste next to her sushi. What's that? She asked curiously. Guacamole, Miss Circle said casually. Miss Thavel gave her a sharp side eye. Why would you do that? She muttered in Japanese. Because it's hilarious, Miss Circle whispered back. Miss Bloomy, oblivious, picked up a piece of sushi. Miss Circle barely held her laughter, watching in anticipation. Oh yeah, just a fun fact. I got that story from my stepdad. He had this girlfriend who, they're at a Japanese restaurant, and he told her girlfriend, oh, that wasabi, it's guacamole. Yeah, that's based on a true story, I bet you didn't know. Oh, I'm getting off topic. Where was I? Oh yeah. The moment Miss Bloomy took a bite, her throat and nostrils ignited with agony. She let out a strangled scream, clutching her face. Miss Circle lost it. She burst into her manic laughter. Wait, no, that's not how you say the word. That's not even a real word. Did I just manic? Oh, that's mania. Is it Maniac? Sure, bro. Practically dying in her chair. It took a lot of mochi before Miss Bloomy finally moved down. The prank was hilarious. Unless you ask Miss Bloomy. Chapter 5. The Assignment. Miss Thavel grumbled. Mondays. She did not like Mondays. It's a song too, isn't it? I don't like Mondays, tell me why. A song about a teenage girl who took her rage out of school. Sometimes Miss Thavel felt like doing that. Miss Thavel looked ahead and saw Miss Bloomy tweaking her blade arm again. It's like that's all she ever did. So, how was your class? Thavel asked. Miss Bloomy looked over and replied, Good, we had an experiment, took things off the shelf. Did you need Miss Circle's help to reach the higher ones? Miss Thavel had taken a jab at her, and Miss Bloomy walked right into it. 1 second later, a blade went flying at her. Miss Thavel caught it just before her head burst like into a balloon. She could feel her hand start to bleed. You're using sharper blades, I see. She inspected the blade closely. No sensitive about that prick. Miss Bloomy growled. Should I apologize? Miss Thavel playfully bantered. Miss Thavel had nothing better to do, so she decided to tease Miss Bloomy a little more. Miss Bloomy rolled her eyes, probably the best move not to engage any further. Thank goodness for that quick reaction time from her jeans, or else the staff lounge might have got painted red. Miss Thavel was about to make another remark when she heard the sound of heavy-duty boots. She knew that noise. Miss Circle. She quickly looked toward the door and saw her. Good afternoon, ladies. Miss Circle greeted as she walked towards Miss Thavel. Miss Thavel nodded in acknowledgement. I have an assignment for you. You know the drill by now. And what happened to keeping the discipline down? Miss Thavel asked. I know, but just bear with me. Miss Circle sighed. I have a particular student in mind. Miss Thavel tapped her fingers on the counter impatiently. Who is it? Miss Circle paused, thinking about it. You know, the battle breaker? The one that always wears the visor? Miss Thavel took a moment to process that. She wasn't talking about him, was she? Unstable? She questioned. Miss Circle clicked her tongue. Yes, that's him. Miss Thavel froze. What? Don't tell me you started developing feelings for those things, Miss Circle said, reading the look on Miss Thavel's face. Miss Thavel cleared her throat. No, it's not that. I just needed to process it. She desperately tried to mask her emotions, hoping Miss Circle wouldn't catch on. Alright. Do as you usually do. I know how painful and statistic you can get. Miss Thavel nodded, understanding she couldn't say no to this assignment. The lunch bell rang. I suppose we should get going to our classes now, Miss Circle patted Miss Thavel on the shoulder. Just get the job done. It had taken all of Miss Thavel's willpower not to scream. Why him? Out of all the students, why him? For the first time in her life, Miss Thavel felt helpless. She looked over at the furniture around her and then lost control. She smashed everything. She didn't care anymore. The wooden chair had been snapped in two. The flower pots destroyed, covering the air in thick dust. The first student she had somewhat cared about was now the person she had to kill. She felt water hitting the floor. Tears? What were these emotions he felt? She forced herself to compose like she always had. With slow, shaky breaths, she cleaned up the mess she had made, and found another teardrop. She headed to class. Oh yeah, a side note, the part when she says the first student she'd ever somewhat cared about, that's not true. It's actually, I was gonna mention, well now I can't go back. But yeah, I'll write a part, I was gonna write something else, which contradicts that fact. Oh yeah, it's Abby. The other student is Abby. There's lore with Abby and Miss Thavel. but I low-key got too lazy to change it mid-recording because I really don't care. Yeah. Chapter 6. The Test. Miss Thavel was late. She had never been late to class before. It was concerning, but Unstable assured herself there had to be a reason. He glanced at the table. Did you stare at me, Farah? Farah looked at Unstable, confused. Study for what? You know, the test? No. Farah didn't answer, but the silence was enough. Unstable noticed Vance glaring at the other table where the bully sat. What do you see? Unstable asked. I think they're planning to cheat, Vance muttered. What makes you think that? You see the pencil cases? Why else do you think they're copying down the notes and stuffing it in there? Unstable shrugged. You might be right. Those guys always get away with it too, Vance muttered. And just then, Oliver noticed them staring and walked over. You're not planning to tell us, right? Oliver asked. But with his tone, it felt more like a command than a question. Vance's reply was sharp. Beat it, show. Soap muncher. Oliver looked surprised, maybe even amused. Oh, you want to throw hands, tough guy? Vance barked back. You're a coward, wuss. I'd snap you like a twig. Unstable figured it best to avoid things if it escalated. Instead, he walked over to where Engel was sitting, reading alone. Engel saw him walking over and smiled, closing his book. Where's Miss Thavel, you think? Unstable asked, as if a greeting. Engel didn't answer that. Instead, he simply muttered, just don't fail this test. Unstable had heard him say something like that before. What do you mean? What happens? Unstable pressed. Engel let out a shaky breath. The teachers, before he could finish, a sharp voice cut through the air. Vance! Oliver! What are you two doing? Miss Thavel. Apparently, Oliver and Vance had decided to settle things. Sable hadn't been watching, but from the looks of it, Vance was winning. Oliver hissed, You piece of crap! Vance just chuckled. I'd snap you into two in a real fight, coward. That's it, you two to the principal's office. Miss Thavel snapped. Vance grinned. Well, Oliver looked devastated. What? He started the damn thing. I don't care. You can settle it with Miss Grace. Unstable couldn't feel the chill that ran down Oliver's spine. Miss Grace. Her office was described as cold and eerie. If you ever got sent to her office, it usually meant expulsion. The two barely back from ripping each other apart, at least until they were out of Miss Thavel's sight. Miss Thavel sighed. I'm sorry about that and being late to class. I was catching up on things. We'll start the test now. To your assigned seats. Her voice was sharp, stern. The class felt silent. Unstable sharpened his pencil. That literally makes no sense. It like a text view later. It says mechanical pencil. You can't sharpen a mechanical pencil. Ooh. I love it when I contradict myself before looking at the others. It seemed everyone was trying to squeeze everything in the last minute of studying. He felt confident though. Out of all his classes, this was the one he excelled most in. This is actually a true fact. I'm really good at Spanish class. I don't know. That doesn't relate to me with Miss Thavel, though. That's just the thing I'd like to know. As Miss Thavel handed the papers, Unstable confidently began writing the test. What? Huh? A wave of confusion washed over him. A pit formed in his stomach. He had never seen material like this one before. His hands clamped on the paper as if his eyes darted around the room. No one else seemed to be reacting the way he was. A few students looked puzzled, but they were always the ones that usually struggled the most. What the heck is going on? He tried to skip over the questions he found too difficult, but some of them didn't even make sense. Struggle the most correct term for what sans defense means. A. Confuse. B. Meaningless. C. With parentheses, something. D. All the above. What did I mean by this? Wait, let me look through this. Maybe I can find a meaning. I wrote this a year ago, okay? Confused with meaningless. Sure. His head spun. The more he tried to focus, the worse it got. Every little noise became amplified. The scratching of pencils, the erasing of graphite, the ticking of the clock. He could hear everything except his own thoughts. Unstable blinked at the test, frustration and confusion taking hold. He took a deep breath and asked Miss Thavel for some answers. Miss, she asked. He said, hesitantly, as she walked over from table to table, glancing at students' work. Yes, Unstable? She responds. I don't think we studied this material before, he said, his voice tingling with worry. Miss Thavel answered. Maybe you were distracted in class? She said dismissively. Well, that was helpful. Miss Thavel Unstable sat helplessly at his desk, struggling to make sense of the test in front of him. Time's up. Unstable flinched, accidentally snapped the graphite in his mechanical pencil upon hearing those words. He hopelessly tried to write more, but it was no use. Eventually, he was forced to hand over his test papers. At least the dread was over. He had tried his best, or at least he thought he did. Unstable knew the test would leave a stain on his perfect score in class. That was okay, he supposed. There's nothing he could do about it now. As he walked over to the halls, he made it to his locker. The language class was always the last class of the day. He hurried up the stairs to drop off some textbooks so he could finally leave. Today felt especially long. Once he reached his locker, panting, he quickly dropped off the books. A loud thud echoed inside. They were hardcovers, so it was probably fine, he reassured himself. As he finished and snapped the lock shut, he noticed a figure standing in front of him. Unstable couldn't make out what it was, only it had antlers. Just as he was trying to process what he was looking at, the figure stepped closer. Unstable's heart dropped. Okay, for very obvious reasons, I'm not reading chapter 7. If you want to read chapter 7, you can go look at the Google Doc link in the description, okay? I am not reading that, bro. I'm not reading all of that. Chapter 8. Home. Unstable shut the door and locked it. Someone had been gone for quite some time now, a familiar feminine voice said. It was his younger sister. Their parents had yet to return from home, and they were out of the country for business and had been gone for quite some time. That left Unstable in charge of the house, though he let his sister usually do what she wanted. Unstable shifted his eyes towards the noise. He saw his younger sister leaning in the doorway, eyes eyeing him closely. Sweaty, her expression of him. She smirked and gasped. Did you go to a party? Unstable didn't just stare at her tightly. I didn't go into any party. Knock it off, Fem, he said hoarsely. Fem didn't drop the teasing. How boring. You went to a party and didn't even drink? Yeesh. Unstable scoffed. Neither of us are old enough to drink, and you're a minor. Fem frowned. But I see kids hosting? What, I see kids at my school hosting parties? It's alright. It's alright. This is writing from a year ago. It's okay, Unstable. It's okay. You know, it's weird because I can't even use my real name because I would dox myself. Unstable countered. Yeah, and their parents probably don't even care about them. Fem scowled. Our parents aren't even here. Well, I care, and I promised them I'd keep you safe. Fem pouted. Okay, you weren't at a party. Where were you? Unstable froze. You wouldn't believe me. And that was probably true. Besides, he really didn't want Fem to know what happened. It would just make things more complicated than they already were. Sable glanced at her hands. Peanut butter? He asked. Fem quickly noticed too and went to the sink, rubbing her hands under running water. You caught me making a sandwich, sue me. And Sable rolled her eyes. As long as she wasn't doing anything bad, he didn't mind. He just wanted to go to bed. And then he touched his shoulders and realized something. My backpack, he sighed in frustration. Oh, nothing I can do now. He was too tired to care anyway. Also, our garbage is full, Fem pointed out. Unstable looked at her, almost disappointed. It's your turn, isn't it? I don't remember that. Stable frowned. Of course you don't. Sighing, he gathered the bags and headed outside, and then almost tripped over something. His legs barely caught him before he hit the cement. He looked down and saw his backpack. His eyes widened, blood running cold, a sense of dread running over him. He quickly glanced around, searching for any sign of her, still sensing somebody watching him. However, if she had been here, she'd probably been long gone. With his hands shaky, he threw the garbage bags in the bin and hurried on the top of the steps of the porch back home. Oh, back inside. Wait, hold on. I gotta text my friend. Can you guys hold on? Can you hear the typing? Hold on, I'm just denying my friend of his rights. How do you spell relevance? Relevance. Oh yeah, by the way, fun fact, whenever I don't know how to spell anything, I just go on Google and I try to type out the word until I get the correct one. Ah, there we go, relevance. Big events. If you're reading this, I was talking to you. I mean, if you're seeing this, should I continue on? I probably should. The audio log. I'm dead ass too lazy to cut it. So, just be in the video. Yeah. Okay, back to doing it. Where was I? I low-key was kind of busy. Oh, you're right. Words couldn't describe what Miss Thavel had done. She threw her pack onto the coffee table, rubbing her temples. What she had done was probably morally wrong. No, very wrong. But it felt really pleasant. It really seemed like no. She knew she was just making excuses. She would probably be resting in the deepest pit of hell for that. She didn't care though. She just crawled into bed. She didn't even bother changing into her sleeping clothes or brush her teeth. She just wanted to forget about everything that happened. Chapter -2. So, oh my gosh, it's Latin. I don't know how to pronounce Latin. Ah yes, summoning it, finding it. I just ruined that so bad. I'm so sorry if you speak Latin. Oh wait, I can butcher the pronunciation because no one actually speaks Latin. I kind of forgot that. A burst of laughter erupted. How long ago had she heard a noise like that? The lady smiled at her. Tea? Miss Thavel blinked. Sure, I'd like some melon, thanks. She grabbed the teapot and poured its contents into the cup she had set down for her. I have some news, Miss Malum excitedly said. Oh yeah? Miss Thavel's eyes perked up. I finally found a school for Abby. A proper one. Miss Thavel smiled. putting her hands to her tea and sipping it. "Oh, that's great. What's the school's name?" she asked curiously. "Paper School." Miss Thavel felt the ground fill beneath her. She felt a twist in her stomach. No. Why that school? Aren't there any better options? Miss Mallam's eyes grew grim. Ever since Abby's father passed, this one was the only option I could afford. You worked it, don't you? You can keep him safe for me. Miss Thavel's heart sank with guilt. She simply nodded. Right, well, she was making a promise she wasn't quite sure she could keep. What was she doing? She just hoped she would never have to do it. Miss Thavel sighed. I have a question, Mallam. Miss Mallam looked at her back in that. Yes? Miss Thavel put her hands to her legs, looking down at the floor. Do you think people can change? For good? Miss Mallam smiled. I think anyone is capable of change, if they really believe. Her voice screeched inside of her. You are lying to yourself, you damn cheat. You know Abby will eventually suffer his fate. Why? She heard a scream. She saw a terrified boy skid across the hallways. He took one glance at her and ran toward her. Please help! Miss Thavel looked down at her. Him? I can't. Abby looked up, confused. What? Miss Thavel shook him off coldly. He tried to grasp her, begging for help. When he heard Miss Circle's heavy footsteps thundering, his face turned around, as if stunned by betrayal. Why? Miss Thavel didn't have a response. She just stood there. He ran to the next hallway, yelling for help. Miss Circle sprinted toward where Abby was heading and stopped us to look at Miss Thavel. What are you doing? Help me! Miss Thavel only stared, saying nothing. Miss Circle frowned, picking up the speed again, chasing after Abby's. Abby's screams and pleas echoed from where Miss Thavel stood, and then the noise suddenly stopped, followed by sounds of slashes and stabs. She cringed at the noise, guilt hammering down on her. She remembered what she had promised Miss Mallam. She had heard small, quiet footsteps behind her. Turning, she saw Lana staring at her, terrified. Oh my God, Lana whimpered, her hands covering her mouth as tears welled down her cheeks. She looked at Miss Thavel, her face screaming of what she could not say. You monster! Miss Thavel felt every ounce of hatred in those eyes. Miss Thavel threw Abby's corpse on the ground and began staring at Lana. Lana's breathing hitched as she screamed and ran. Miss Thavel closed her eyes, drowning the sounds in silence. Ringing silence. Pleading, screaming, frantic footsteps. She tuned them all out. It's her fault, she reminded herself. Miss Mallam couldn't blame her. But why did it still feel like it? Oh yeah, by the way, when she says it's her fault, she's implying it's Miss Circle's fault. I guess, bro. Seconds later, Miss Circle turned to her side. You damn coward. A hard grip latched onto her neck. Miss Thavel let out a strangled growl while holding her neck. You just stood there. Miss Circle tilted her head. Why? Miss Thavel growled, trying to resist her grip. Then she was released from the grip and collapsed on the floor. She gathered her breath and stood up. I promise Abby's mom I wouldn't. Guilt washed over her even more, just as the pain did. Physical pain. A bash came from the blunt side of Miss Circle's compass, flew into her face, the sound of bone cracking as she stumbled back, gasping, holding her cheek. She knew defiance like this would earn her this. She didn't care though. Oh please, she said, laughing maniacally. Spare me your sudden morals. I do not care if you grow conscious about killing. You always have been. Oh, what you are, a killer. You are a mixed Wendigo. It's in your blood. Why pretend? Miss Circle raised her compass to the sharp side, pointing at Miss Thavel, the needle glaring at the school's light. Miss Thavel panted, looking down at her. Miss Circle studied her compass for a moment, her eyes narrowing inside. You're still a valuable asset, though. Doesn't mean you can go sparing students. Next time it happens, I will do much worse. She started to walk away. Go clean up your nose, too. You look horrible. Miss Thavel rubbed her nose, her eyes sliding to her claws and seeing blood. Not one from the student, but herself. If she wanted to preserve, she'd have to listen to her. She was the last of her kind, after all. It's funny how I said that, but I add no, story or impact ever again to that. It's just there. It's just always, it's just like, I mean, I might make it to part 2, but I don't know. Maybe. Miss Fowler woke up in her room, surrounded by beds and walls. Home. She sighed, a breath of relief. How many more times did she have to relive that memory? Each time it became worse and more haunting. She looked down at her clothes. Ragged. She'd have to look after it. Wait, she'd have it looked after. She was supposed. That was one more errand she could do over the weekend. Miss Thavel pressed the buzzer and typed her old friend's number. Who is it? A static voice said. Just an old friend. She heard the buzzer buzz and sighed with relief. At least Miss Malum still remembered her voice. She pressed the elevator button, heading to the 6th floor. When had she last seen Miss Malum? Not since the accident, she supposed. Miss Malum and she had been best friends since high school. While Miss Thavel became a teacher, Miss Malum went into textiles, which could be very useful for someone like Miss Thavel who couldn't keep her clothes from getting shredded for longer than a day. Ever since Abby's disappearance, Miss Malum hadn't been herself. Miss Thavel knew she wasn't directly responsible for it, but she just stood there, watching him desperately trying to get away. She was a damn coward for watching. The elevator beeped before she could finish lowering herself, and she stepped out of it. Room 612, room 612, room 612, she thought to herself. It had been a while since she was last here, but eventually she found it. She knocked on the door. It's unlocked, a voice called in response. She opened the door and saw Miss Malum working on something. Beside her were a couple of pill containers. You've been busy, Miss Fowler said as a greeting. Miss Malum rubbed her worry eyes. Oh yeah, try staying up for the entire night, she muttered. What? You got no sleep for the entire night? Miss Fowler asked, her voice generally concerned. I couldn't if I tried. Miss Fowler pointed to the pill containers. I don't remember you taking pills, she said. Miss Malum gripped the table. The doctor scrubbed them from her trauma, said it would make me more productive. What? That isn't effective. You're ruining your sleep with it. Miss Malum laughed tiredly. Believe me, it was a problem long before that. Jesus. Miss Thavel rubbed her temple. Miss Thavel glanced further around the room, letting her eyes wander. All the photos with Abby had seemed to be taken down. Miss Malum noticed a stare. You think they'll ever find my boy? Her voice broke. I don't know, Miss Thavel said. She didn't know how she could face Miss Malum if she ever found out she was a part of it. The guilt would be too great. Miss Malum wiped her tears, blowing into a tissue and clearing her throat. I suppose you need me to fix your clothing, right? She said quietly. Right. That was the reason she was here. For that. She had completely forgotten, caught up in all this guilt. She handed Miss Malum her usual attire. So, what did you do this time? Miss Malum asked, if I may inquire. Miss Fabel leaned back into the chair. Oh, you know the usual. She flashed her claws. Miss Malum's eyes widened in realization. Ah. She laid down the dress and began her work. This is a very nice dress for someone who wrecks it all the time. Where'd you get it? Miss Fable's eyes drifted to the window. Miss Circle, as a gift. It was weird how Miss Circle had given it to her, but she always had to wash it due to taking care of students. It became very annoying, and of course, she didn't want to tell Miss Malum that since, well, Miss Malum fumbled through the drawer for the matching fabric to stitch it up with. Miss Malum had always been organized, but after Abby's disappearance, she'd been a wreck. Miss Fable tried to assure herself she hadn't done this, the others did, but why did she feel guilty? As Miss Malum finished, Miss Fable said her gratitude. Miss Fable pulled out her wallet. How much should I pay you? Miss Malum smiled, dismissing her wallet. You don't need to. It's okay. No. I should. You do this for me almost every week. Oh gosh, just go. Miss Malum smiled. She smiled back, thanking her again. But the void of guilt sat with her, even after leaving the apartment. Murderer. Psycho. Freak. She muttered more swears to herself, pressing the claws on her hand, cautiously making sure Miss Malum heard none of them as she followed outside to the elevators. She went to hang up her coat. She patted her pockets. My wallet. She groaned, grabbing her head. It was getting late anyway. She'd have to get it back sometime. Chapter 10. I've got all day. Unstable patiently waited for a certain someone to get out of school. He tapped his foot, glancing at his phone every now and then. There'd be no way he'd ever enter that school again. After Miss Fowler's warning, he was scared to think what the worst teachers were like, or what they could do. He looked at his phone again, tempted to use it. No. Don't worry about that noise. He had already spent too many nights scrolling mindlessly. He'd want to have it start interfering with his actual life. And besides, this was important. He fought the urge to use his phone to pass the time, and it would only make him more likely lose track of Angle. He checked the time. 3 o'clock. The bell rang. A horde of students flooded the building, and he scanned the crowd trying to spot one specific person. His eyes flickered towards the pickup spot every now and then, making sure Angle wasn't being picked up by his parents. What felt like half an hour, he finally saw him. Hey, Unstable started walking to Angle. Unstable? Angle blinked in surprise. Were you waiting for me here all day? Unstable shrugged. I couldn't come today. I found out about something. Angle's eyes widened as he realized what Unstable was talking about. Unstable glanced around, checking for any prying eyes. Let's talk somewhere private. Angle nodded, and they walked down the street. I have a lot for you to uncover. This might take a lot of time. Don't worry, Unstable assured him. I've got all day to talk about it. Angle closed the door behind him, locking it. Who's the friend you brought home, Squiddy? A voice called out. Angle glanced towards the stairs. Just a friend, Mom. I brought him over, if that's okay, he said. Unstable took his surrounding. The house felt warm and inviting, the soft carpet muffling his footsteps. The fire pit was warm, in contrast to the harsh cold rain outside. Angle sat down in a chair and looked at him. Start from the beginning. So he did. Unstable recounted his chase with Miss Fable, explaining how, at the last moment, her consciousness overpowered her instincts and she spared him. She spared you? Angle looked stunned. Miss Fable was, if anything, more sadistic than Miss Circle. It didn't seem possible. Unstable shrugged. She wasn't acting independently. She's just following orders, but from whom and why? Angle expression darkened. He hesitated for answering. I don't know when or it started, but at paper school, students started disappearing after failing tests. At first, I didn't notice, but one of my friends, Claire, failed too, and those maniacs chased her. She tried to escape through a fake exit door. It was the house's door. Angle trailed off, unable to finish. Even mentioning it filled his eyes with grief. Unstable felt his chest tighten, feeling pity for the poor student who Who are the other teachers? He asked, barely above a whisper. The math teacher and science teacher. Of course. She should have known. Something was always off about those two. What about the police? Can't they do anything? Engel let out a defeated sigh. They don't have any proof. Nothing can be done. And the teachers friend me if I say anything, though. He shuddered, unable to voice the consequences. Unstable sat in silence, thinking, then something clicked. Aren't there cameras all over Paper School? Engel's eyes widened. The cameras, they usually only keep that for cases of mischief, but that might actually work. His face fell again, but Miss Grace will never allow that. Agreed to hand it over. She won't believe us. Unstable leaned forward and defied. What if we cause a distraction and sneak in her office? Engel huffed. He'll know we get into big trouble. We won't just get detention, right? Engel's eyes flicked everywhere in the room before finally sighing. This is our only shot. So be it. For Claire, he smiled. Unstable smiled back. If we're gonna do this, we'll have to plan things out. Chapter 11. Rivalries. Vance couldn't stand him, that bastard Oliver. He always bullied those weaker than him. People knew he wouldn't fight back. He'd strut around his buddies acting like he was untouchable, and of course the teachers loved him. Why wouldn't they? Vance clenched his jaw. He couldn't stand him at all. At the lunch table, he stood at nothing, lost of his spots, his anger simmering. Dude? Vance blinked and looked at Farrah before sitting down at his lunch. A Terra walnut bread sandwich with spam meat. Not great, but Mac didn't have it any better. His lunch was just leftover Kraft dinner. It was obvious neither parent could cook. Still thinking about Oliver, Farrah asked, right on the mic. Vance grumbled in agreement and he stabbed his food. A squishing noise barely registered. He wanted Oliver gone, out of the school. It was the only thing standing between him and meeting Alice. But how? He was still stuck on that part. Vance tapped his pen against the desk. Click, click, click. Then something clicked in his mind too. A grin spread across his face as he pushed himself away from the table and headed outside. The bell clanked when he stepped into the convenience store. He made his way to the shelves and grabbed the pack and brought to the cashier. An old man behind the counter eyed him suspiciously. You do realize you can't buy these, right? Vance smirked. They're not for me. The man raised an eyebrow inside. Take them, I don't care, just pay for them, alright? Vance lighted 20 on the counter. Thanks, pal. He walked out, shoving the pack deep in his pockets, a smug look on his face. Tomorrow he'd unwrap his plans. Vance rolled to the table where Oliver sat. Oliver paused mid-conversation with one of his friends, his expression souring. What do you want? He hissed. Vance smiled. Can't I talk to a friend and apologize? Oliver snorted, his friend chuckling along with him. You're lying, correct. But Vance didn't falter. No, I'm sorry. I mean it. Oliver stiffened slightly, as if he wasn't expecting that. It was probably the most half-assed apology ever, but I'll accept it. I'm sorry too, I guess. Vance glanced down, suddenly slipping something in. I'm glad we both agree on something. He patted Oliver's shoulder. Oliver glared at him. Don't do that. Vance smirked and turned away, making his way towards the teacher, Miss Bloomy. Miss, may I go to the bathroom? Miss Bloomy barely looked up. Yeah, alright, go ahead. Vance flashed a smile. Thank you, miss. The bell rang over the speakers, followed by a harsh voice entering through the hallways and classrooms. Oliver, please come see me in my office. Oliver groaned as he got up from his chair, clenching his fist as he made the way to the principal's office. When he entered, he immediately noticed Vance sitting 2 seats in front of Miss Grace's desk, smirking. Why don't you take a seat? Miss Grace said, her voice as cold as ever. Oliver shot Vance a sharp glare. You did something, didn't you? Vance smirked widely. No, wait, this is Vance smirk only widened. I can read. Vance has informed me that you've done something you're not supposed to, Miss Gray stated. Oliver frowned, confused. What? Never brought anything that bad, he protested, his frustration clear. Of course, I'm reasonable, Miss Grace replied calmly. Show me the insides of your backpack. Oliver scoffed, grabbing his bag, passing it over. Miss Grace rummaged through and then suddenly stopped, her eyes twinkling in recognition of something she pulled out. Cigarettes. Oliver's heart plummeted. Those are mine. Miss Grace remained unfazed. Stay where you are, Oliver. I'm calling your parents. Oliver stood there, stunned in disbelief, before turning his icy stare to Vance. You. Vance simply grinned. You bastard! Oliver shot up from his seat, rage boiling over. You set me up. You slipped the contraband in my backpack. You sit down, Oliver. Miss Grace's voice sent a chill down his spine. Grinding his teeth, Oliver dropped back into the seat, fist clenched. Your parents will be picking you up, Miss Grace continued. I already informed them about this incident. She turned to Vance. You are dismissed. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Vance tipped his hat and leaned just enough to whisper something before leaving. You deserve it. Vance took a deep breath. This could be life or death. Probably a death wish. He gripped the handle of Alice's door, hesitated for a second, then turned it, the door creaking, revealing a cold, damp room beyond. What are you doing here? A chilling voice echoed around him. Vance lazily grinned. I heard your boyfriend has been expelled. From the shadows, Alice emerged, her cautious eyes locking onto him. Yes, it's quite a shame, she sighed. Vance smirked. I guess that means you're single, huh? Alice blinked, then burst out laughing. I was going to murder you, she admitted, between fits of laughter, but her laughter continued, cold and sharp. You're very bold, and quite amusing. Vance's eyes lit up with hope. Alice tilted her head, considering something, then reached out and petted his head. I'll give you a chance, just for your courage. Vance barely headed back to a relieved exhale. What a story he'd tell his friends. Chapter 12. Mr. Compass. Miss Thavel sat at her desk, her fingers drumming lightly against the surface. Stress clouded her mind. Miss Thavel said she had done her part, but... Oh, wait, can I scratch my head? Yep, just a little bit itchy. Don't worry about it. Done her part, but she refused to show the body or provide any evidence. Why was that? She chewed in the inside of her cheek, lost in thought, when she felt a sudden tug. Ambush snuggle. She barely had any time to react before Mr. Compass wrapped his arms around her, pulling her into a playful embrace. She isn't as reactive as she usually is, but it seemed to distract her less. Compass! She shrieked, half laughing, half protesting. Stop! I'm busy! Ah, but I hate seeing you all grumpy like that. He squeezed her tighter. My girl won't be spared by the... Oh god, that's cringe. Oh, that's so... Oh. Let me mentally prepare myself. Yeah. My girl won't be spared by the cuddling bandits until she cheers up. His ridiculous, over-the-top ideas for making her feel better had always been so silly. What? What did I... That's a typo. Why is there a typo in my fanfic? I thought I proofread this 5 times. His ridiculous... Oh, it's always been silly. So... him. It just is so him. Like S-O him. Period. Like that's not... Well, whatever. No matter how dumb or thoughtful they were, she loved them for it. Okay, get off me. I'm much better now, thanks to you, she grinned. Mr. Compass finally releasing her, satisfied that his strategy had worked once again. Wanting to keep him busy, she decided to give him something to do. Did you clean your room? Mr. Compass scoffed. My room is always clean, like I've never ever even touched it. That was true. His room was always spotless, immaculate, as if he never really used it. The rest of the house, though, a complete disaster. But she didn't mind. She stood up, wandering through the house in search of her phone. Where do I leave it? First, she checked the bedroom. Nothing. Strange. She searched the living room, the bathroom, nowhere. And finally, she found it sitting on the kitchen counter. Her brows furrowed. I don't remember putting it there. Compass! She yelled out. Yeah? Came his voice from another room. Did you move my phone? No. She paused, her fingers tightening around the device. Was someone messing with her? For a brief moment, an uneasy feeling washed over her, and she brushed it off and went to clean the floors. Chapter 13. Set it ablaze. Engel waited near the janitor's stall, glancing around for any sign of unstable. This was their best place to meet. No cameras, no nosy students, and the janitor wouldn't be here until after lunch. Finally, Unstable arrived, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He unzipped it, and Engel's eyes immediately widened with concern. That's a lot of fireworks, he muttered. Unstable shrugged. Yeah, but it'll definitely get their attention. Engel didn't bother asking where Unstable got enough fireworks to make the 4th of July look like a birthday candle. Instead, he sighed, focused on the plan. Alright, here's how we do this. You'll set off the fireworks in the school trash can while everyone is distracted by the chaos. I'll sneak in the office and grab the footage. Engel exhaled. This could go wrong in so many ways. Unstable clapped him on the back. Well, let's hope for the best, eh? Miss Thavel glanced at the clock, tapping his foot, as Engel still wasn't back in his seat. Where was that boy? He looked at the clock's long hand. He was mere centimeters away from hitting lunchtime. Engel was a good student, so why wasn't he here? He heard panting from a student who ran back. Well, did you find him? Her eyes rose. Octo panted. No, I couldn't find him anyway, he said, hovering 3 breaths between each word. She sighed, a bit disappointed. But he had tried. Alright, you may go back to your seat. Miss Thavel waited a few more minutes, and then the bell rang. She muttered a swear under her breath. She was going to give Engel a lot of crap for this when he came back. At least it wasn't her problem anymore. She walked out, high heels clanking on the smooth surface. Hey! She stopped in her tracks and looked behind her. Oh, hey, Circle. She waited as Miss Circle got closer. Once she did, they resumed walking. Miss Circle followed. Miss Circle followed. I'm very good at reading, don't judge me. Miss Circle let out a heavy breath. I didn't have enough time to pack my lunch today. Miss Thavel lifted an eyebrow in interest. Oh yeah? Well, when you only have one normal arm, packing lunch can be very hard. Miss Mom hummed in agreement. But don't you have Mr. Compass to help you? She says. Miss Circle scoffed. Are you kidding? That slacker never helps me. As if she heard some kind of backtalk, she might too. Oh, shut up, you. Miss Thavel frowned in confusion. Who are you talking to? They both stopped walking. Miss Circle only mirrored her confusion. Mr. Compass, don't you hear him? Miss Thavel chuckled nervously, trying to keep the situation from escalating. Mr. Compass is an actual compass. He has a human form too, Miss Circle added. Just as Miss Thavel was about to break the hard truth to her, something started yelling her name. Thavel! A wave of relief washed over Miss Thavel as they were now distracted. She turned to the source and saw Miss Mallow. Who is she? Miss Circle asked. A friend, Miss Thavel said quietly. Miss Mallow waved the wallet in her hand. My wallet. A small laugh came from Mallow. You left this at your apartment. I can read, bro. I can. You left this at my apartment when you left. Miss Thavel took her wallet. Why are you here? I mean, why come now? Well, I was driving near your place, so I thought it might as well. Miss Mallow shrugged. Thanks. Before Miss Circle could mouth another word, a loud bang went off. What the hell? Miss Circle looked down the hallway. The three of them ran over to investigate, and many others had heard and started following the noise. Murmuring erupted as they saw a flurry of bright colors and sparks. Fireworks! Just as they were about to reach the source, it went off again. Miss Thavel felt a cold arm yanking her back, and she followed Miss Circle's grace. Her heart stopped. Unstable? She still glances and ran. Miss Circle turned with her eyes even angry. Night she had met those two students. Dread loomed over Miss Thavel helplessly. She had disobeyed her. A cold, raspy voice came out. Why is he still alive? Miss Thavel couldn't answer. Miss Circle was shaking violently with rage, and with that, he ran after him like hell. Miss Thavel tried to follow, but she couldn't keep up. She called out after her, Wait! Miss Circle didn't listen. Her blind rage was focused on one thing, finishing what she had started. Teachers and students alike saw her running after Unstable. She wasn't even pretending anymore. She was dead set on killing him. Miss Thavel's legs couldn't keep up. Each breath became more ragged the longer she ran. Unstable slipped and tripping onto the hard floors. His fate was practically sealed. That useless brat spared you, but don't worry. After I'm done with you, I'll have a word with her. Unstable saw Miss Circle looming over like death itself. He lifted his forearm, closing his eyes, and she raised her compass and swung. He waited for the strike. It never came. He looked up, and his heart dropped in astonishment. Miss Thavel had stopped the blow. She panted, staggering slightly. How the hell was Ankle supposed to hold back her compass? She was able to barely keep herself holding. Miss Circle pulled back. You filthy traitor. The words pelted her like small rocks. I should have killed you when I knew you had a bleeding heart when I slaughtered Abby and Lana while you stood back. She heard a small gasp in disbelief. Miss Mount's voice was barely a whisper. What? The small voice desperately tried not to sob. Miss Thavel could feel every bit of Miss Mount's heart breaking. Guilt and regret washed over her. The memories flooded back. Miss Thavel's crooked smile only widened as she realized who she was speaking to. The mother of Abby. She laughed, all of sanity abandoning her. I realized every moment of his suffering, licking the bloodied lips after each swing, until his screaming completely stopped. Miss Mount fell to her knees. Thavel! She looked at him. Hi. Miss Thavel couldn't even bear to look at her. She sobbed through her breath. Sorry. That was all she could manage before Miss Circle foot connected with her stomach, knocking her to the ground. Get out of my way, Miss Circle growled, commanding her to stay down. Miss Thavel stumbled, but forced herself back up. She lunged for Miss Circle, her claws slashing across her skin. Miss Circle staggered back, assessing the damage. She rubbed her face, surprised, and then laughed, even more psychotically than before. You finally grew a spine. Miss Thavel's lungs were overworked. You're a spineless coward, you know that. Killing kids who don't even stand a chance, just to feel a little bit of power. Miss Circle laughed at her insult. Like you're any better, you wretch. You were a part of every killing. Shut up, she snapped. A razor blade went zooming past her. She ducked, but it wasn't aimed for her. It was aimed for Malum! She clenched the blade mere inches from Miss Malum's face. Miss Malum's breathing was no less erratic than hers. Miss Bloomy growled in frustration, having missed her shot. Miss Circle capitalized on the opportunity and swung. Miss Thavel blocked the needle before it could pierce her skull and dragged her claws across Miss Circle's chest. Miss Circle cried out in pain. She retaliated, slamming her compass into Miss Thavel's skull. The voice sent her reeling. Adrenaline kicked in. Miss Bloomy leaped at her for a surprise attack, only to be quickly grabbed. She struggled, trying to desperately rip Miss Fowle's arms off her. "Let me go," she hissed. Miss Fowle let out a small laugh. "Fine." She yanked Miss Bloomy and flung her across the door. Alice's door. Miss Fowle's breath hitched. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Miss Bloomy crashed into the door. She got up and realized how doomed they were. Miss Circle froze, and for the first time in a long time, Miss Fowle saw real fear in her eyes. Miss Fowle swallowed. "Bloomy, get away from the door." Miss Bloomy silently nodded and cautiously stepped away from the door. Spikes erupted from the floor like thorns sprouting from a rose. Miss Circle cursed, "Bloomy!" But then, there she was, the Princess of Malice herself, Alice. A small, sinister chuckle escaped her lips. Miss Bloomy slid on the floor, Alice's tendrils wasting no time wrapping around her. Miss Circle screamed, rushing toward her. Miss Fowle turned to Unstable. "Go," she ordered. Unstable stuttered. "Go, damn it!" But he wouldn't leave her. She growled and sprinted with the other teachers to help. She lunged at Alice, only to be slammed into the wall by a tendril. Miss Circle walked up to her, smiling. Miss Fowle looked up, her breath breathing unsteady. "And here I thought you would abandon us, traitor." Miss Fowle sighed, managing a weak chuckle. Maybe I do have some faith left." Miss Circle extended a hand toward her. Miss Fowle's eyes widened in disbelief. "Get up." She gritted her teeth as Miss Circle helped her to her feet. "Let's go put the princess back in her room." Miss Bloomy struggled, slashing the tendrils binding her. She finally struck a hit and tried to run, but Alice quickly recoiled her tendrils before being torn apart by Miss Circle's compass. Alice grunted. "Damn you, teachers!" A blade shot past her, grazing her cheek. She sucked her teeth as blood trickled down. Wiping it away, she lunged at Miss Bloomy. Miss Bloomy saw it coming and tried to dodge, only to feel the tendrils tightening around her feet. She looked down, horrified, as Alice's fury struck. The claws gleamed in the dim light, tearing a deep chunk of flesh from her leg. She screamed in agony, pain overriding everything. Miss Fowle flinched from the sight of her injury. Miss Circle stabbed at Alice, forcing her back. Miss Bloomy crawled away, leaving a trail of blood in her wake. Then she felt her body being lifted. It wasn't tendrils, it was Miss Fowle. Miss Bloomy tried to speak, but Miss Fowle hushed her, her voice unusually calm, given the chaos around them. Hey, it's relax, just me." Miss Bloomy sighed in relief. Her eyelids felt so heavy, fear crept into Miss Fowle's chest. No, come on, stay with me." Her voice wavered. She was terrified of losing her. Miss Bloomy chuckled weakly. "You never call me that." Her voice was breaking. Her eyes were closing. Hey, no, hey, damn it, stay with me. I swear I'll never call you short again." The desperation in Miss Fowle's voice was heartbreaking. Miss Bloomy shivered, parting her lips. "Thavel?" Miss Fowle's body stiffened. Tears rolled down her face. Yeah? Can you lay me down somewhere softer?" Miss Fowle nodded sadly. "Yeah, I can do that." Her mother told her once at some point she'd have to stop crying, but nothing could have prepared her for this. She was more valuable than she had ever been. She carried Miss Bloomy to the staff room, laid her on the couch, and pulled a blanket to cover her. "Hey, stay here, okay?" A weak moan escaped Miss Fowle's lips. I have one regret." Tears and blood streaked her cheeks. "Yeah?" Miss Fowle asked, voice broken. Doing this, it ruined my life, and I'll die because of it. I got me," she muttered. She laughed softly, and winced at the pain in her stomach and fell silent. Miss Bloomy's eyes found Miss Fowle's. If you make it out of this. Miss Fowle held a hand tight grasp on it. Promise me they'll change. Tears slipped down Miss Thavel's face. Yeah, I'll try. Lumi's eyes finally shut. Miss Thavel leaned in, desperate for a sign. Her breath hitched, and then a heartbeat. No, guys, this implies that Miss Bloomy didn't die. That's really sad, bro. She's not dead. Oh, I'm so disappointed. Chapter 14. Malice, Fear, Rage. The tendril slammed into the wall, barely missing Miss Circle. Every time it came closer to striking her, she parried, deflecting it, but time was running out. Each movement grew sloppier, slower. She was exhausted. She knew a hit would land eventually. She just had to wait out a little longer for Miss Thavel. God damn it, where are you going to go? A tendril shot out to her chest, mere inches away from skewering her like a kebab. She swung back, but Alice dodged effortlessly. You're getting sloppy, Circle, Alice grinned. Yeah? Circle panted. Freak. A tendril lashed toward her head, and she closed her eyes. She knew it was hopeless. Maybe Miss Thavel wasn't coming back. Her body tensed as she braced for the inevitable. But then Alice screamed, and Circle's eyes snapped open. She heard a ragged breath. Miss Thavel! Miss Thavel held the tendril back, straining to keep it from striking her. Took you long enough, Miss Circle said, relieved. Seizing the moment, she lunged at Alice where she was distracted. A direct hit. Alice stumbled back, hissing in pain. Run. Miss Thavel nodded and bolted. They could hear Alice right behind them. Giving chase, she slammed the doors shut behind her, right in Alice's face. A fierce pounding followed. The force shook the doors, screws flying loose. The windows shouted, the glass raining on the floor. She swore. They raced up the stairs, legs burning with every step. Each footfall. I don't remember putting that word there. Was panicked, rushed through the hallways. Then, a distant siren. The police? Alice growled. Her claws retracting. A thick puff of smoke rose as where she stood. Gone. Miss Circle collapsed on the ground, panting. The threat was finally over. Then, freeze! Her body stiffened. What? No. Slowly, she raised her head. Nothing but lockers and an empty hallway. She exhaled. She laughed! A chuckle. Laughter bubbled up uncontrollably. Well done, Wendigo, well done. She's still grinning. She slowly stood up, raising her hands in surrender. Chapter 15. Aftermath. Unstable couldn't be happier. The police arrived. Alice's reign of terror was over. The principal surveyed the damage. Miss Circle was being taken away. Miss Bloomy had been taken out by a stretcher. Carried out by a stretcher. Whatever, bro. As you can see, I'm a great reader. Then Angle finally reappeared. Unstable smiled. How did you do it? Angle looked up at the school, still reeling from Alice's destruction. While you and the teacher was too busy fighting, I snuck into the office and sent all the footage to the police. Unstable laughed. Man, I thought I was a gunner. So, what now? Angle asked. Will you keep attending the school? Unstable looked around for one last time. I guess, he shrugged. Angle smiled. I'll see you tomorrow. Then the speakers cracked to life. Attention all students, the school has been... Slight hesitation cracked in her voice. Dismissed for reasons. Enjoy your Friday. Unstable took a deep breath, walked home, the fresh air filling her lungs. His lungs. Yo, you did not catch that. Chapter 16. Epilogue. The only noise in her isolated room was a quiet beeping of a holter? No, wait. Holter, no, that's how you say it. That's literally how you say it. Monitor, reading her heartbeat. She let out a quiet hiss, waking up in pain. Miss Bloomy looked down at her leg and only saw bandages wrapped tightly around it. Oh, excuse me. Along with her brace, she scanned the room and noticed a shadowy figure standing nearby. As she stepped into the dim light, her eyes watered. Miss Thavel? Thavel nodded as she walked closer to the bed. How did you get in? Aren't you wanted? Miss Thavel shrugged. I snuck in. Well, let's see how long I can keep up the chase, she grinned. She pulled up a chair and sat beside the bed, watching her. Came to check on you since they'll be taking you to prison after this. Miss Boomy let out a tired breath. Yeah, I know. She tried shifting to a more comfortable position, but pain shot through her body, and she let out a quiet noise of agony and merely stopped. You okay? Miss Thavel, for once, sounding genuinely concerned. Bloomy frowned. No, idiot, I feel like shit. Miss Thavel roared a laughter. Spoomy managed a small chuckle too. After a pause, she spoke again. Hey, Thavel? Miss Thavel glanced at her. Yeah? Miss Spoomy turned to her gaze to the window, staring at the darkness of the night. The moon shone brightly against the scattered stars. Do you believe people can change? Miss Thavel let out a quiet breath. I asked the same question once. Miss Boomy's eyes rose with curiosity. Oh, I was told people can change if they truly believe in themselves and try. Miss Boomy considered her words for a moment. She smiled faintly. Do you think you and I will? Miss Thavel took her time before answering, choosing her words carefully. I think so. I think the mistakes we made shape us into better people, if we let them. Miss Boomy hummed in quiet agreement. A sudden movement caught Miss Thavel's eye. A doctor now standing at the doorway, watching her cautiously. Excuse me, ma'am, it's after hours. Please go. Miss Thavel flashed her claws. Few more minutes, please. The doctor took a step back. Alright. He hesitated before slowly retreating and closing the door behind her. Miss Boomy sighed. I'll probably be in prison for the rest of my life, but I think I've made peace with that. Some sort of payment for everything I've done. I probably deserve worse. Her voice was thick with emotion. Miss Thavel shook her head. Bloomy, you were just a person influenced by all the wrong things. It's over now. Miss Bloomy exhaled shakingly. The doctor said the damage was bad. I don't know if I'll ever be able to walk again. Will you get prosthetics? Thavel asked, generally curious. I don't know yet. Maybe. Doubt I'd be able to afford them. Miss Thavel stood up from the bedside. Leaving so soon? Miss Bloomy whined. Well, that doctor gave me a funny look. I think he recognized me, so I'd rather not overstay my welcome. She walked over to the window, opening it. A cold breeze rushed in. Bloomy shivered. Don't leave that open, please. Miss Thavel glanced back and smiled. Don't worry. And with that, she leaped off the balcony. A loud crash followed. Garbage bags. Probably. It was definitely a ground escape. Security flooded the room. Where is she, goddammit? Miss Bloomy shrugged. Who? Miss Circle had finally been caught. She always knew this day would come, so she wasn't really surprised. She deserved it. At least the people who preyed on her downfall could finally have some closure. The door to the small room creaked open. A man stepped inside, dressed in pristine white, like freshly fallen snow. Psychiatrist, probably, she thought. She crossed her arms. Are you the guy who tries to talk to me and make me normal, or? He pulled out a pen. No, I'm the one who assesses your mental state. She leaned back, unimpressed. Well, I already know everything that's wrong with me, so why go over it again? He sighed and scribbled something down. Miss Circle frowned, watching him. So you are aware your morals are psychologically skewed? Skewed? I do. She smiled, absent-mindedly examining her nails. Yep. And you're aware you have schizophrenia? The grin instantly faded from her face. Schizo. Her voice trailed off as her gaze flickered to her compass locked away in an evidence box. Phenia. That's a new one. The psychologist glanced at his notes. If I recall from your tax records, you claim to live with your boyfriend. Compass, right? She nodded. He exhaled deeply. He's not alive. No one has been living with you for years. A sharp sting hit Miss Circle's chest. No, that had to be wrong. But I've been with him for years. The man gave a small, sympathetic smile. I'm sorry, Miss Circle. It's been gone. He's really been gone for that long. It's just unfortunate this is how you unknowingly committed tax fraud, though. Miss Circle broke down in tears. But he felt so real as touch. I know how it feels. The psychologist said gently. Schizophrenia can create voices, illusions. It's common. Her world cracked apart. I'll assign you medication for it, okay? She nodded, hollow and grim. He wasn't really alive. He never had been. The psychiatrist's voice pulled her back. Do you think this could play a part in your behavior? Miss Circle looked up, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes. The doctor jotted something down. That night, she hardly slept, tossing and turning on her cold, dimly lit cell. He was dead? The thought gnawed at her, never relenting. But in the pitch-black silence, she heard it. A soft, familiar hum. Mr. Compass. He stepped forward, his silhouette forming in the dark. Man, those guys are real handsy with me. They thought they were smuggling something contraband in my ass? Any other day she would have left. Any other day she would have smiled. He always had a brand new day. But now, there was nothing. She lay there, unmoving, staring at the ceiling. He sighed and sat at the bed. So, the jig's up, huh? Miss Circle nodded slowly. You're not real, are you? Mr. Compass looked hurt. What am I to you, Circle? She stayed silent. An illusion of your sanity. A loved one. Your boyfriend. A person you always clung to. She still didn't answer. What am I not really? His voice softened. Just a figment of imagination? A desperate mind trying to rationalize someone's death? Mr. Compass sighed. He hesitated. When he died, jeez. Circle, you were a mess. You couldn't function for days. You'd cry every night, hoping he'd still be lying in bed next to you. He tilted his head. Part of your brain took pity for you. So you denied it. You moved to a new town, a new school. Paper school, she muttered. And like nothing had ever happened, you were happy, content. Mr. Compass smiled faintly. You were living a lie, but we didn't want to break the illusion. I didn't want you suffering again, so a little part of you lied. To protect you, to keep you strong. Miss Circle sobbed. It all made sense. Why Mr. Compass had never won photos because he couldn't be in them. Why the Kit Kats in the cabinet were barely touched because she was the only one eating them. His room was always clean because he never used it. Oh my god, she whispered. Tears fell freely now. Mr. Compass sighed, walking closer. He stroked her hair. She sobbed harder, grabbing onto him desperately. He let out a quiet grunt as she clung to him. He's so real. He rubbed her back. It's alright. At least for now. I'll never be gone again. His voice dropped to a whisper. Shh. The cold glass pressed against Unstable's finger, oh my gosh. Can I restart over? Condensation dripping onto the counter. He sighed, taking another long swig before slamming the bottle down. The bartender raised an eyebrow, still wiping the glass. That's your 10th one, Unstable groaned. Yeah, I know. The bartender hesitated and asked, someone taking you home? Unstable waved a lazy hand. My sister, she's just waiting for her. The bartender studied him for a moment and gave a small nod. He slowly moved onto another patron. Safe travels, my friend. Unstable barely paid attention, lost in a numbing warmth of alcohol, that was, until a chair shifted beside him. Hey! A voice. Soft. Familiar. Unstable groaned, his frown deepening. I'm not buying any more drinks for you ladies tonight, so you help me. He turned, ready to brush them off, then froze. Thavel? She chuckled, her lips curling into the same knowing smirk. You let go then. Have you finished uni yet? A small, wary smile crept onto Unstable's face. You haven't changed much. Still mesmerizing me. Her smile faltered, a small hint of sadness flickered in her eyes. She sighed. Listen, you and I, Unstable leaned slightly, eyes wide, clinging to the moment. I think you know that we can't be together. The words struck harder than any physical blow she could have landed. His breath hitched. The dull warmth of alcohol did nothing to soften the pain. I'm wanted by a lot of people, she continued. I have to stay low. I don't want you to be caught up in my life and what it's spiraled into. Spiraled. Oh, I said it right. Into. Her voice dropped into a low whisper. I'm sorry. Her voice trembled. His fingers trembled. Oh my god, bro, I can't read. His fingers trembled as he wiped his eyes. I understand. She reached for his hand, her touch gentle, almost hesitant. She clutched onto it, just for a moment. And then she leaned and pressed a soft kiss on the top of his head. Memories flooded back, old memories, stolen glances, conversations whispered in the dark. A connection that could never be. And just like that, she stood up. Each step of her high heels clicked against the floor, fading into the distance. Unstable sat there, motionless, staring at the spot where she had been. A few moments later, his sister arrived. Alright, Fem, clapping a hand on his back. You owe me for this. He exhaled shakingly and stood up, leaning against her for support. She glanced at him. You look different. What happened? He tilted his head, his voice quieter than before. Saw an old acquaintance. Fem hummed. Oh yeah? Tell me that in the car. Unstable nodded, letting himself be led out of the bar. Miss Malum was always a night owl, but for some reason, tonight, she was extremely tired. A noise stirred, and she looked up. Nothing. It was nothing. Perhaps it was the result of sleeping only 6 hours last night. Though it was an improvement to her previous attempts. She rubbed her eyes, and then Miss Thavel appeared. She flinched. You know you should really get more sleep. Miss Malum looked at herself and sighed. You're right. Miss Thavel sat down. When Abby was killed that day, I failed you. I'm sorry. Miss Malum stopped her sewing machine and looked at her. It's alright, I know you didn't do it yourself. She gazed at her more deeply. Do you still do it? Miss Thavel blinked, taking a moment to realize what she meant. Ever since Abby's death, I hadn't taken a single life. Her eyes watered. Honestly? She nodded, a sad smile appearing on her face. Your boy was a good person. I liked him. It was just unfortunate he was in the wrong place. He could have lived a good life. Like the way you raised him. Miss Mom wiped out her tears. Thank you. Miss Thavel looked at her weary eyes. Go to sleep. I can't. I have to finish this by tomorrow. She closed her mouth. Tomorrow can wait. Just go to sleep. She reluctantly listened, her eyes slowly closing as she rested her head on the table. She fell asleep incredibly fast. Miss Thavel smiled as she lifted her to the couch and placed a blanket over her resting body. Quietly, she stepped out of the window into the cold night. Prison had been what she had expected. Cold, damp, and cruel. Miss Thavel, bro, Miss Circle. I'm illiterate, bro. Couldn't have asked for more. She knew she probably spent the rest of her days here. The fact she didn't just execute her was surprising. Given the unforgivable crime she committed, she had become much softer, more caring. Her sadistic nature had seemed to be decaying. She supposed those rehab programs really worked. She wasn't sure why she participated, knowing she'd be rotting here forever. There was no point in practicing to become a functional member of society, but people were nice, kind, forgiving. All the things Miss Circle was the opposite of. No warden unlocking the cell. The keys jangled with every little shake he made. Get out. You've got a visitor. A visitor? That was a surprise. She unexpected. Who is it? Who in the world would care enough to see her? A visitor, even. She sat down, waiting to see who it was. Miss Grace. Miss Grace. She crossed her arms. Yeah. Miss Grace sighed. Despite your well-known actions, I've struck a deal with the government. Have you seen the news? Miss Circle raised an eyebrow. I don't have any access to any news. Miss Grace sighed. Again. Boy is coming, and seems Uncle Sam doesn't fancy a country so much anymore. She looked back at Miss Circle, and you have experiences in combat, right? Please ignore that. They pardoned you to teach at a local military school. Fire handling and safety. Can you do that? Miss Circle raised her eyes, surprised. I'll take any opportunity I can get. Miss Grace grinned. That's fantastic. You'll be notified when you start. Oh my god, it's finally over. Thank the Lord. Well, this is the outro. Thanks for listening to all this, or just skipping to the end, because I do have some extra goodies to tell you about. I made this because I don't know, YouTuber man, bro. Like you know what to do. Like it's it's bad. Just the April Fool's joke that totally is the other day. I don't know. I don't have a script for this. I'm just rambling at this point. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I just did this because I haven't uploaded anything for a while. This is it's a fitting video for April Fool's, dude. Trust, dude. It's April Fool's Day. It's all satire, man. It's all. Anyway, I want to say I am making a second part to this fanfic. I know this was a pretty shabby job, but considering it's my first long piece of fiction for a personal project, I thought I did a pretty good job. I always wanted to experiment with writing, and I thought, this would be a good start too. Yeah, sure, it's a little weird doing it on FPE, but I enjoyed doing it when I could. But what I really want to hype is the second part. It's gonna be way more detailed. It's gonna explain everything about everyone and just go into more depth about characters. It's got like actual fun planning compared to the first one that had no planning whatsoever. And yeah, I'm just excited to share it. So yeah, maybe wait a couple months, 1, 2, maybe we'll see it. I don't know. I mean, I probably won't. Maybe I'll make an audiobook of that too. I don't know. We'll see how long it is. This took 2 hours to read. I cannot believe that. Jeez, that is a long time. Alright, I'll see you later. Bye bye.